Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager and Senior Vice President of NGINX Business Unit, Gus Robertson.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? I heard the noise backstage when Rob asked the same question. It wasn't very inspiring. So good morning, guys. How are we doing? All right, that's much better. Thank you. Really excited to be here this morning. We've got an amazing amount of content for you over the next few days. This is Conf 2019. It's our annual event where we bring together our customers, our community, and our partners together to share experiences. Many of the partners are here today outside sponsoring the event. And this event wouldn't be possible without them, so I thank all the partners, and please go and visit them while you're here. We have amazing content, and not just from the company, but also from customers in the community sharing with you their experiences, what they've been successful doing. And so many people, when they come to Conf, tell me that it's great content and they learn a lot, but actually they also really enjoy the experience of meeting other people that are doing cool things with NGINX. So take time to chat with each other at lunches and coffee and ask what each other's doing, because you'll be amazed what you learn, how other people are doing amazing things and probably things that you're struggling with NGINX. Someone told me this actual same story yesterday, that it was true for them. We are also streaming the event live, so welcome to everyone who's joined online. This is our 6th year of NGINX Conf. With a show of hands, who was with us last year in Atlanta? Okay, a few of you. Thank you. Thank you for coming back again. Can I ask, has anybody been to all 6 NGINX Confs? Non-NGINX people. Dudes. I see one over here. I suspected as much. I won't call out your name on stage, but I wanted to thank you for coming to every single NGINX Conf, and we have a small token of appreciation that someone's bringing to you. So thank you so much for coming to all 6 NGINX Confs. Fantastic. So when Conf comes around, I take the opportunity to reflect back on the last 12 months. What's happened in the world, not just in technology, but beyond technology. So let's do just a little bit of a trip down memory lane, if you will. Downton Abbey? No. America invaded England, well, the monarchy at least. And as a result, we now have Prince Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, who was born in May 2019, which I was surprised in Australia and was very exciting news here in the US. The space race continues, and rather than just calling it the space race, they're now calling it the billionaire space race, continues. And a slight change on this is that Virgin Galactic is planning to IPO at the end of the year so that everybody can invest in space exploration. I think some of us will invest, and some of us will probably just nominate people to go to space. Extending beyond our own solar system, for the first time in history, we captured an image of the black hole. This was actually an historic event, and only possible through technology and a network of radio telescopes called the Event Horizon Telescope. Just to give you a sense of how important this is, our entire solar system is approximately 1.87 light years in length. The black hole is 55 million light years away, and is 6.5 billion times the size of the sun. So this is a pretty significant event. Clearly, this has been the year of space. The fastest growing movie to gross $2 billion now was Avengers Endgame, a movie about aliens from space invading Earth. This now surpassed Titanic to be the highest grossing film to get, or fastest grossing film to get to $2 billion. I think the important thing here is an Australian saves the day at the end. Following on, looking a little bit at politics and trying to really avoid domestic politics here in the US, the UK voted to leave the European Union 3 years ago, and we're still discussing Brexit to this day, so I think it's fair to say that Brexit is stuck in orbit, or lost in space. I wasn't sure which one of those to use. Moving on from politics, Australia has won the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Yes, And for those of you that know anything about rugby, this is fake news. Probably more wishful thinking on my behalf. The Rugby World Cup actually starts in a couple of weeks. If I think back to the second NGINX Conf, while I was actually delivering my keynote, the World Cup had just started and the game that was being played was Australia versus Fiji, and members of the audience were yelling out to me the score while I was having my keynote. So it's quite apropos that the World Cup is actually now starting again in just a couple of weeks. I guess on a more serious note in business, NGINX has been acquired by F5. And I wanted to share some of my thinking around this with you because many of you have asked when we've met individually, and I'm sure many of you are going to ask over the next few days. You know, we weren't actively looking to sell the company. We were approached actually by several companies at a similar time. And as we went down the process, it became clear to me that our vision from the very start of building the company was to empower creators of the new digital world, to provide tools and capability and skills to people to bring together amazing digital experiences to change the world. And we were doing this through NGINX and NGINX Plus. But it became clear to us over time that we needed to do more than just NGINX and NGINX Plus, and we needed to build a central control plane to bring aggregated information together to do more cool things that can deliver on the promise of what we call the living app. The living app is where an application can grow autonomously as traffic comes in. It can shrink when the traffic subsides. It can heal itself when it's broken, and it can defend itself when it's being attacked. And so we were heading down this path, but with very limited engineering resource to be able to achieve it. Now, I think we would have got there for sure, but it would have taken time. Coming together with a company the size of F5 has accelerated that vision dramatically. F5 have now added around 150 staff to the NGINX business unit to specifically work on accelerating our vision, extending the data plane with more capabilities around application server, API, gateway, and management, adding security at the firewall level into the NGINX data plane, but also accelerating the control plane projects that we've been working on, and you'll hear a lot more about here. So I do honestly believe that we can deliver on this vision at a much faster pace as part of F5. So yes, I think it was a great financial outcome for our investors and our employees. I think it was a great cultural match. You know, I've spent now the last 4 or 5 months as being part of F5, and I'm just incredibly impressed with Francois, his leadership team, and the culture that they're building at F5. And I would say the culture at F5 is very analogous to the culture we were building at NGINX. But I think most importantly is I think it's great for the customers and the community. F5 is 100% committed to open source. That hasn't changed. But they are giving us more resource to focus on NGINX, NGINX Plus, NGINX Unit, mod security, and other technologies in the open source space. But they're also giving us the resource to help extend the control plane and the commercial products as well. So I think this is a great for the company, great for the employees, and obviously great for our customers. So moving past sort of the last 12 months, the digital world is always accelerating. I don't think anybody here would think that's unexpected. What I do believe is happening is it's evolving. We're entering this digital world this is the first time in a society we've done this, and we're learning as we go. And technology and digital experiences are no longer nice to have. It's not just watching movies on the weekend or streaming music. We're now dependent on these experiences in our day-to-day lives. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that dependency. And with that comes good, but also some bad, or some things that we need to be aware of and address, I think. Let's start with the first wave of how the digital sort of world started, which was consumers. Consumers went digital first. Now we have 51% of the world's population digitally connected. That's increased 200 million over the last 12 months. So we're growing the amount of people that are part of this digital world. In the last 12 months, if you look at the amount of hours we spend a day, that's grown 5%, from 6 hours to 6.3 hours a day. But if you think about the fact that 6 hours or 8 hours of that is spent asleep, right? Significant part of our day. In the last 12 months, more time now is spent on our mobile devices than on television. And in fact, now 28% of all video consumption is on our mobile devices. And if you look at the type of applications that we're using, we're seeing a trend. we're seeing that applications like Facebook and WhatsApp are relatively flat over the last 18 months in terms of their usage. What we're seeing is applications like Instagram and YouTube growing, 20 to 25%. So we're seeing that we're evolving from a text-based society to an image and a video-based society. The importance of storytelling is becoming a core part of the digital world. With this also comes instant likes. And with likes comes a downside or a cost. We're seeing mental health issues become prevalent, things like being addicted to the phone, and even depression in teenagers coming from issues they're seeing with the amount of likes they're getting and no likes. And so as a result, the applications are evolving. They're changing and looking at removing the like feature to try and reduce some of these issues that we're seeing in teenagers and mental health generally. 69% of people check their cell phone within the first 5 minutes of waking up. Let's do a quick test. Show of hands from the audience here. How many of you look at your cell phone within the first 5 minutes of waking up? I got to say that's 80%, right? I forgot to put my hand up. Sorry. Why? We want to be constantly connected. I mean, we want to see messages in case messages have come overnight from friends and family. We want to check work email. We want to see world news. This is kind of the world we live in where if we feel disconnected, we feel vulnerable almost. And at night, if we're using our phones, we're already seeing the issue of sleep deprivation coming in. We're not sure what the issues are going to be around sort of looking at your phone within the first 5 minutes. This statistic here, I think, is more of an annoyance than anything else, but the fact that 86% of people are checking their smartphone while they're talking to friends and family, right? I think is creating, we're seeing psychological issues for this come up like attention deficit disorder. We're no longer able to focus on a single task. We no longer can take an elevator ride from the top to the bottom without checking our phones. We're constantly checking our devices, and this attention deficit disorder is something that's becoming more apparent. But with teenagers, we're seeing things like narcissism, where they're much more focused on their life in the digital world than their real world. That's a problem, right? This is part of the issues that we're facing. Moving on to how this has affected business. In 2022, there will be around $28.5 trillion of retail sales done. By 2022, in terms of e-retail, so e-commerce, 20% of that will be done online. That's up from 10% in 2017. So within 5 years, we've doubled the amount of online sales that are being done globally. And to do that, our applications need to become more competitive. Why? Because we're seeing more entrants enter the market. We need to apply more images and more video, but it's not just about the content. It's also about better experiences, bringing in machine learning so that you can make suggestions around clothing and other items that you may want to purchase. And interesting enough, it's not the US that's driving this trend. It's Asia Pacific. It's Latin America. Those that are markets that are actually leading this trend to online sales. So it started with consumers, but now it's moved beyond consumers to companies. If any of you have watched my previous keynotes, you would have seen that I've talked about disruption happening in every industry. It started with e-retail, it started with the retail sector, but it's moved well beyond retail. We're now in healthcare, financial services, government, media, manufacturing. This is no longer about B2C. It's not a business-to-consumer issue. This is definitely business-to-business, and we're all having to evolve as a result. It's changing the way that we work. We're seeing new tools come into the workplace. Tools that have evolved from things like IRC now are evolving into tools for the broader audience, like Slack and Teams, where we can now communicate in different ways. And thank goodness, because email was getting way overbearing. We're seeing other tools that technical audiences have used moving into the broader audience as well. Tools like Jira and Confluence are used in our organization by the marketing team to do project management and share content. So I think we're seeing an evolution of the power worker tools that we're using in the office. We're also seeing that we're truly now a borderless work environment where there's no true perimeter. We have more and more remote workers than ever, and people are bringing their own devices to work. So we're having to see new rules about how we manage these devices, around identity management, around security, around asset protection. So the world within business is changing and evolving as well. And this has all happened to the point now that we're entering a new industrial revolution. We're now talking about Industrial Revolution 4.0. Just a bit of a history on the Industrial Revolution. The first one happened in the late 18th century with the introduction of steam-powered equipment, taking over from animals that were originally sort of providing the power. In the beginning of the 20th century, we evolved with mass production of specialized goods with electricity, so thinking like the Model Ford production line. In the late 60s and early 70s was really the introduction of the information technology era with the computer and the automation of individual components of that production line using computer technology. And here we are now, in the last few years, entering the fourth industrial revolution, where we're now blending the digital and the physical world, and where machines can interact directly and talk to each other, and taking humans out of the loop. Let's talk a little bit more about this. This first idea or concept was introduced by Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. He wrote about this in 2016 and published a book in 2017. He talks about these new production processes as cyber-physical systems. These are smart machines and storage systems and production facilities capable of autonomously exchanging information, triggering action, and controlling each other independently. What does that mean? Well, let me put it into context for you. Right, my daughter, by the way, who I've spoken about at all of the last comps, so I had to do it this time as well, loves yogurt. So let's take the example of a yogurt factory, right? We now, in this yogurt sort of supply chain, can see orders happening at the field as they're being entered into the system, right? The autonomous system can then start placing orders on the supply chain for the various ingredients they need for the flavors that are being ordered. Those flavors are then delivered to the production facility. The production facility has smart sensors that can actually check the consistency of the yogurt and the temperature of the yogurt at every step throughout the process. Smart sensors and cameras can also see the label of the yogurt to make sure the label matches the actual flavor that's being put in. You can then track this all through the production process. The machines that are actually working in the production line have sensors that can tell when they're starting to have maintenance issues and may need some maintenance help. They can also have 3D printing on site, so that if a part can be printed locally in the warehouse itself or production facility, it can be printed and installed. And then these items, as they're shipped from the factory, are tracked all the way to the consumer, and the whole loop starts again. So this is the sort of modern world of production, where this production system has sensors that feed into a central aggregated system that then shares the information amongst the systems, creates some smart decisions, and then puts it back into the production system, so the production system evolves as new orders and new demand comes in. It's only possible because of the technologies that we all have introduced, and that many of us have either worked on the applications or technology that provide them, or we use them ourselves. Things like Internet of Things and smart sensors, so that you can track things on trucks, parts being shipped on aeroplanes, production machines, you're actually checking the machines while they're in real time. Real-time data, so that all that time and aggregated information is seen as it happens, not after the event. The fact that we have cloud computing now gives us unlimited computing resource to be able to go and run this real-time data, but not just even centralized cloud computing. Edge cloud computing is giving us closer proximity to the actual people in the field and the consumers and the technologies that we're seeing in the field. Artificial intelligence, taking that real-time data and looking for trends, looking for anomalies, being able to make some smart decisions and send that back down into the production facility. And then, of course, automation, using automation to take action so that these smart decisions are actually implemented. These are the tools that are making Industrial Revolution 4.0 possible and make it a production like an organic living thing. So what's happening as a result of all this? We talked about the consumers, we talked about companies, and we talked about the fact that we're now entering the Industrial Revolution of 4.0. So what's the impact to all of us in the room? What's the impact in the world today? Well, number one is that 7 of the top 10 companies are now technology companies. Technology is becoming more and more the core way that we deliver experiences, and I don't think that's any surprise. What's also happening is companies that are not technology companies are now becoming technology companies first and their products second. I love the example here of Domino's. Domino's has managed to double their market share in the last 10 years from 9% market share to 18% market share by adopting digital transformation and delivering amazing digital experiences. They've said that anything, information, clicks, payments, anything that slows down the ordering process causes abandonment of the transaction and potentially a lost customer to a competitor. They talk about the fact that in the past, customers really only had two ways of ordering a pizza. You could call or walk in. Now there are over 15 ways to order a pizza, which are really important stuff. But you can now order a pizza by sending an emoji over social media and have a pizza arrive at your house, or you can order a pizza using Google Home without clicking or touching anything. And you can have it delivered by GPS coordinates to where you are sitting on the beach or in a conference room. Please don't. What else has happened? In order to accelerate this level of innovation, we're now seeing that open source is becoming the development model of choice. It's the only way that we can accelerate technology at the rate that we need to deliver these experiences. How do we know this is true? Well, IBM acquired Red Hat this year. This transaction finally went through. The leading companies are doing this. Microsoft, who in the past was not a proponent of open source, are now, I would argue, one of the best, if not the best, cloud companies accepting and embracing open source as part of their cloud model. And also, really important and most poignant, is NGINX got acquired. So in every industry of the technology sector, open source is becoming core to the way that we deliver that technology. We've also seen the introduction of the APIs. And this is really an interesting factor, is that more and more as machines are talking to machines, we're seeing more and more traffic not coming from browsers and humans, but coming from machine to machine. And the app experiences need to evolve, and this is because apps need to evolve from a sort of single-dimensional experience to a multi-dimensional experience. You know, if you look at just something like Uber Eats, you place your order online, you get to see menus from every single restaurant in your area and around the globe. You get to know when the restaurant has actually received your order, that they're cooking your order, that it's ready for pickup, that it's been picked up, by who picked it up, what vehicle they picked it up in, where they're at any point in time, and when it's arriving to your house. All of that is because of APIs into other services that enable that multi-dimensional experience. It's not just I ordered and I wait and I have no idea if it's coming in 20 minutes or an hour and a half. No, you know at any point in time where it's coming and who's delivering it. And as you bring more smart sensors in it, you'll probably know the temperature of the food and even more detail. But this is kind of the experiences that we're now demanding. We're seeing that the way that we think about assets is changing. We no longer own content. We no longer want to buy a DVD and own a movie. We want to have a subscription where we get the most current content in real time, whether it be movies or music. And this is no longer just things like movies and music. It goes beyond that. We're now looking at office space. Companies like WeWork don't lock you into multi-year contracts. You have monthly contracts that allow you to expand or shrink your usage or need as you grow or as business maybe declines. There are clothing companies like Rent the Runway that let you subscribe to clothes that you can have for periods of time and then return them. The same is true for boats, cars, aeroplanes, educational content. We're changing our whole thinking around ownership to more of a subscription-based economy. And what this does is it increases our dependence on these technologies, right? Because we now depend on these subscriptions to have content. If our internet breaks, you have no video content at home. And it extends beyond, as I said, the nice-to-haves. It now extends into the must-haves. Let's go a little deeper. Our applications are core to our digital lives. That hasn't changed. But they are now more than just an application. They are your company. They are your brand. They are your reputation. First page load time now has to be equal to Google and Facebook for everybody in this room. Otherwise, people go to a different application and do something else. Everybody has to have the same performance as the largest web-scale companies enabled to be enabled to compete. What we're seeing is expectations are rising. What we're also seeing is that patience is declining, right? And no one is actually willing to tolerate poor experiences anymore. Let me share a couple of examples with you. The first one is an app in South Australia called Alert SA. 170,000 people had downloaded this application. It was so that the South Australian government could warn their constituents when there were bushfires, so they knew if they had to evacuate. What happened? At the point in time this year when there was the most fires and critical fires they've seen in many, many years, the application broke. People weren't able to log in. The type of experience they got looked like this. So now the South Australian government is advising the 170,000 people to delete the application and stop using it. They're even considering legal action against the vendor that supplied the application because they had contracted for a 99.9% reliability. We're now dependent on technology to help save our lives. This is just one example. If you look at Facebook recently, can we move to the next slide? Thank you. If we look at Facebook recently, Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, all of those applications went down in March of this year for several hours for many users. And the interesting thing is that the only way that Facebook could then communicate to its users that it was having a problem was using a competitive tool, Twitter. And of course, you can imagine how people on the internet took to that. You can see one example here, right? So not only was your reputation affected, but actually Facebook had to look at returning money and refunding advertisers who had expected to advertise during those times. So this heavily impacted their credibility in the market. Here's another interesting example was Tesla. Tesla actually has a mobile phone app to be the key for your car. This happened just over the Labor Day weekend that for up to 4 hours, some of the users couldn't get into their car because the app on the phone had stopped working. Now, Tesla had come out and said that none of these drivers would have had a problem if they had followed the owner's manual, which makes it clear that they should always carry a physical key, fob, or key card. Number one, how many of you read the manual? Okay, you're in technology, that's not fair. Secondly, how many people would carry the backup card or phone in their pocket when I've got the experience? Okay, some of us do. Some of us do. Not many of us. Okay, a couple of people put their hands up. The point I'm trying to say is that people just now expect those experiences to work. Just expect that it worked every other day up until now. Why is it not going to work today? I expect those digital experiences to always be available. So, what does this mean? We're entering a new world. Applications must evolve to meet these expectations. The apps of today are just not good enough for the apps that they're going to need to be for the future. We need to do better. Our applications need to evolve. They need to become like living organisms. They need to be able to grow when additional traffic comes in. They need to shrink when there's no traffic to reduce costs. They need to heal themselves when they're broken. They need to defend themselves when they're being attacked. Why? Because we have to deliver on this customer experience. We have to make sure whether we have 1 user or 1 million users that our application performs at that same level. We need to protect our customers' data as well. So our applications need to sense. They need to be able to see what's going on within the application at any point to understand in real time what's happening. It needs to aggregate all that information together and think, right? Be able to look at that data, look for anomalies, look for trends, do intelligent thinking, make smart decisions, and then automate and send that information back out into the application in real time. Does anything here sound familiar? Sound a bit like Industry 4.0? What people are doing in the physical world with production lines, we still haven't accomplished in the pure digital world with our own applications. Aren't any of you shocked that our applications are not at the same standard that physical production lines are already at? We are really at the 3.0 level, where we're using autonomous silos, but not aggregated single views. So how can NGINX and F5 help? We have this concept that we talk about of code to customer. How do we deliver the code that your developers are bringing out weekly, daily, hourly, and get it to the customer as quickly as possible? And this would be, in a perfect world, this would be nice. But the reality is, this is not true. There are many hops along the way, creating latency, complexity, lack of visibility, as we try and deliver the code to the customer. And many of these steps along the way are owned by different people within the organization that are choosing sort of best-of-breed tool for every single one of these hops, but they mean that we have no single visibility or control point end to end. What we need to have is a central control plane bringing all that data together so that we can have end-to-end visibility, doing the necessary artificial intelligence and machine learning so that we can learn in real time from the application, make smart decisions, and send that back through automation and orchestration into the application all in real time. And at that point, then the human interaction is removed. All you need to do is really set an SLA for the customer, set maybe a cost boundary that I don't want to overspend per request this amount, set a security posture to make sure that your customer's data is protected, and then at that point, the app should just take care of itself. Just informing you of things that happened and letting you adjust the policy as the application evolves. This is where we need to get to. The consumers are demanding it, every single company is adjusting, and we're seeing society generally is evolving to this point, to this new global industrial revolution. We need to make your apps come to life. We need to make your apps become like a living organism. And this is, in my belief, we've got the theme this year of level up. This is how we all level up. But it's not just the applications, it's the tools, it's the people as well. And this is also how we level up our companies, because as I just said, our applications are our company. They're our company's reputation. They're our brand. And so that's why I believe NGINX and F5 coming together gives us a holistic set of technologies that allow us to deliver on this vision. And with the additional resources given to the NGINX team, I think that we can really drive this vision forward. So I'm incredibly excited about the product roadmap that my team's going to share with you over the coming days. That's it from me. I want to thank you all for your time.